So my sister was pregnant with my niece. Her name is Ariella Zoe. And at 23 weeks, her water broke. And if you know anything about a pregnant woman, her amniotic fluid, or her water, is very important for the development of the baby's lungs. So she was put on complete bed rest, and she delivered my niece at 29 weeks. And at 29 weeks, the doctors basically said she has a 50-50 chance of living. We're going to give her 48 hours to see if she's going to make it. She was 2 pounds. She had a hole in her heart. They said she was at risk for blindness. One of the hardest things that we faced with her was probably going up to the age of 2, she wasn't walking. And so we knew that wasn't normal. Her Achilles tendons were really tight, so she always walked up on her toes, and she just seemed like she was in pain. So we took her to the doctor, and they gave her these braces that she had to wear on her legs, and she hated them, and she never wanted us to put them on. She would throw a tantrum every time we put her braces on. So basically they said she was going to have surgery to fix her legs. Well, then she had to go see a neurologist, and the neurologist asked a few questions about her and her development, and basically said that she had cerebral palsy. And so we were having a meeting at our church, and Pastor Jacob came, and if you know anything about Pastor Jacob, he is a fireball. And he came, and he was just filled with a message of hope, a message of faith, and he infused faith in us that night for healing and miracles. And he prayed over a few people, but then at one point of the service, he called all the leaders up to the front and said, I want to pray over the leaders, because what I don't want to do is be praying for everybody, but nobody else gets activated. So he prayed over us, he activated us, and something rose up in me that night. It's like my faith just rose up, and immediately I went to my niece in the service, and I laid hands on her, and I prayed over her legs, and I rebuked cerebral palsy. I spoke to her Achilles, I spoke to her tendons, and that was that. So probably, and that was on a Sunday night. So come Monday, she went to daycare, and when my mom came to pick her up from daycare, the ladies at the daycare just ran up, and they were like, oh my gosh, Ari's been walking all day long. And so my mom basically was just crying in disbelief. So she called me, and I was on my way to her house, and we take her in the house, and she's just walking and almost running up and down the living room, you know, and it just goes to show that our faith has everything to do with what God is able to do in our lives. There were places that Jesus went where he wasn't even able to heal people because of their unbelief. But if we could just believe God, if we could put our faith and our hope and our trust in God, then there's nothing that he can't do. If he can heal my niece, he can heal you. The doctors had everything to say about what was wrong with her. But I asked God, God, what are you saying about her? And were we going to believe what the doctors were saying, or were we going to believe what the Word of God said? And I believed his word that night, and I'm not saying that I'm worthy, but I'm saying that I believed and I was willing. And so God used me to pray over her so that she could be healed. And if he did it for her, he can do it for you. After my niece started walking, she was scheduled for a follow-up appointment with the neurologist, and they scheduled her for an MRI so they could check her brain to see how severe or how advanced the cerebral palsy was. And after they got done doing the MRI, they said she has no signs of cerebral palsy. Her brain is completely normal. So if there's something that you're believing God for, if you want to have an encounter with Jesus, you don't want to miss this. I'm telling you, we've seen the power and the presence of God show up in some mighty, tangible ways. People have been coming in testimony after testimony telling of the things that Jesus has done in their lives. So make it a point. Make it a point. Do whatever it takes to be there.